The ship was dying. Captain Venela knew it the moment another explosion tore through the hull. She held onto her chair as the bridge shook violently. Red lights flashed everywhere. Smoke filled the air and made it hard to breathe. Her science officer called out from his station. His name was Keller and his voice shook with fear. He said that life support was almost gone. The ship's protective shields were broken. 3 entire decks had holes in them and were open to space. Venela looked out the window. 6 enemy ships flew around them like hunters circling prey. The Krylon warships were huge and dark. They had attacked without warning 3 hours ago. The Celestial Dawn never had a chance. It was a research ship, not a warship. The scientists on board studied stars and planets. They were not trained to fight. Another blast hit the ship. This one was closer. Venela felt the heat through the walls. She knew what would happen next. The Krylon would board the ship soon. They would take prisoners. Everyone in the galaxy knew what the Krylon did to prisoners. Death would be better. She made a decision. It was their only hope. She turned to her communications officer and gave the order. Send a distress call. Send it to everyone who could hear it. Ask for help from anyone. The communications officer was named Trell. Her hands shook as she worked. She sent the message out into space. The message said they were under attack. Their shields were down. Their weapons did not work. They had civilians on the ship. They had children. They needed help. Please, if anyone could hear them, they needed help right now. The message played over and over, sending out into the darkness of space. Venela knew the truth. They were very far from any friendly ships. Even if someone got their message, no one would arrive in time. They were going to die here. The Krylon hit them again. The ship shook harder this time. Sparks flew from broken equipment. Someone screamed in the back of the bridge. The enemy was playing with them now, taking their time, enjoying the hunt. Then Trell shouted something. She said she was getting a response. Someone had answered their distress call. Venela felt a tiny spark of hope. She asked who it was. Trell looked at her screen. Her eyes went wide. She read the message slowly. It was from a ship called the United Earth Cruiser Liberty. The humans were answering their call. Everyone on the bridge stopped what they were doing. They all turned to look at Trell. The word hung in the air like a curse. Humans. Keller whispered the word. Earth. The death world. Everyone in the galaxy knew about Earth. It was a nightmare planet where almost everything could kill you. The gravity was twice as strong as normal. The weather was violent. Dangerous animals lived everywhere. The humans evolved in that hell, and it made them different from everyone else. The humans joined the Galactic Council only 15 years ago. In that short time, they became famous. Not for art or science, for war. While most species stopped fighting thousands of years ago, humans were still fresh from their own planet-wide wars. They understood violence better than anyone. Even the Krylon seemed gentle compared to what humans could do. Venela felt cold fear wash over her. She did not know if this was better or worse than dying to the Krylon. She asked when the humans would arrive. Trell checked her instruments. She said the humans claimed they were already here, but that was impossible. The sensor showed nothing nearby. Then space itself seemed to tear open. 3 massive ships appeared from nowhere. They dropped out of faster-than-light travel right next to them. The human vessels were enormous. They made both the Celestial Dawn and the Krylon warships look small. The hulls were dark gray, almost black. Weapons covered every surface. There were so many guns that Venela could not count them all. The lead ship moved between them and the Krylon. It was the Liberty. The other 2 human ships, called Philadelphia and Yorktown, moved to the sides. They formed a protective wall. A voice came through the speakers. It was human, speaking their language perfectly. The voice belonged to Commander Jake Patterson of the Earth Cruiser Liberty. He ordered the Krylon ships to stop fighting immediately. He told them to leave this area. He said this was their only warning. Through the window, Venela watched the Krylon hesitate. She imagined their commanders talking to each other, trying to decide what to do. 3 human ships against 6 Krylon warships. The Krylon had more ships. Maybe they thought they could win. The Krylon opened fire. What happened next was something Venela would never forget. It would give her nightmares for years. The human ships moved. Despite being so huge, they flew like small fighter craft. They dodged the Krylon weapons with impossible speed. Their defense systems shot down every missile before it got close. They moved like they knew exactly what the Krylon would do before they did it. Then the Liberty fired back. The weapons were different from anything Venla had seen. They shot solid metal at incredible speeds. No energy beams, no plasma, just metal moving faster than sensors could track. The first Krylon warship exploded. It simply came apart. The metal slugs released more energy than a bomb. The other two human ships fired together. Missiles launched from tubes all over their hulls. Each missile split apart in flight, becoming many smaller missiles. The Krylon tried to dodge, but the human computers had already calculated every move they could make. In 90 seconds, 5 Krylon warships were destroyed or disabled. The sixth one tried to run. It turned on its faster-than-light engine to escape. The Liberty fired one missile. It caught the Krylon ship just as it started to jump to light speed. The explosion tore open a hole in space itself. The Krylon ship was swallowed by the rupture. There would be no survivors. No one would tell the Krylon leaders what happened here. The bridge of the Celestial Dawn was silent. Everyone stared at the empty space where 6 warships had been moments before. Trell spoke quietly. She said the humans were calling them. Venla tried to find her voice. She told Trell to put them on screen. Commander Patterson appeared on the view screen. He was younger than Venla expected. His hair was short and dark. His eyes faced forward like all predators. But his expression was not cruel. He looked concerned. Worried about them, he asked if they were safe. He wanted to know if anyone was hurt badly. Venla found her voice. She said yes, they were safe now. Thanks to him. They had wounded crew members, but no one had died. Patterson said that was good news. He told her they were sending medical teams over. They had repair crews ready too. If she gave permission, they would help fix the Celestial Dawn. Venla looked at her crew. Everyone looked shocked. She gave permission. She thanked him. She said he saved their lives. Patterson smiled. It was a warm, genuine smile. He said that was what they did. Nobody sends a distress call hoping for mercy. They hope for help. And that was exactly what they would get. The transmission ended. The first human shuttle launched from the Liberty and headed toward them. Venla realized something important, something that changed how she thought about humans. Yes, humans were warriors from a death world. Yes, they could do terrible violence. She had just watched them destroy 6 warships in less than 2 minutes. But they also rushed across space to save strangers without asking for anything in return. The Celestial Dawn sent out a cry for mercy. What arrived was something more dangerous and more valuable than mercy. They got humans. Kate Morrison stepped off the shuttle and into the damaged hangar bay. She wore her helmet, but even through it she could smell burned wires and vented air. The ship's artificial gravity was not working right. Each step felt strange, like walking on a boat in rough water. Behind her, Sergeant Carlos Mendez swore under his breath. He said the ship was really torn up badly. Kate nodded. Her medical scanner was already turned on. She gave orders quickly. She told Martinez and Rodriguez to come with her. They would handle the wounded. She told Mendez to take his team and start fixing the holes in the hull. They moved fast through the corridors. Kate had been in the Earth Defense Force for 8 years. She had answered many distress calls. But this felt different. The Thalari were important. They were one of the main species in the Council. They were famous scientists. Seeing their ship destroyed like this reminded her how weak most species really were. They found the medical bay on Deck 3. The doors were stuck halfway open. Kate could hear people crying and moaning inside. She grabbed the door with both hands and pulled. Her suit had powered muscles that made her stronger. The metal door groaned and finally opened. Inside was chaos. Thalari doctors were working, but they were overwhelmed. Injured people lay everywhere. Some had burns. Others had broken bones from the explosions. Kate counted quickly. At least 40 wounded, maybe more. A Thalari doctor walked over. Her name was Mira. She looked exhausted. She said she was glad the humans were here. They needed help desperately. Their medical supplies were almost gone. Some injuries were too bad for them to treat. Kate took off her helmet. Dr. Mira stepped back quickly. It was a normal reaction. Humans looked scary to most species. The forward-facing eyes, the visible teeth, the heavy muscles from growing up in high gravity. Kate was used to this reaction by now. She introduced herself gently. She said they brought medical supplies and equipment. She asked to see the worst cases first. Dr. Mira took her to a young Thalari boy. He was barely more than a child. His skin had turned pale blue, which meant he was badly hurt. Mira explained that plasma burns covered 40% of his body. They had stabilized him, but their technology could not heal injuries this bad. Kate scanned him quickly with her equipment. She said he was going into shock. She called for Martinez to bring the nanomed kit. She told Rodriguez to get the portable surgical unit ready. Dr. Mira watched in amazement as Kate worked. Human medical technology was very different. Most species had gentle medicine that worked slowly. Humans had medicine designed for battlefields. It was made to keep soldiers alive even when they were badly hurt. It was aggressive and fast. Kate injected nanomedicine directly into the boy's blood. Tiny machines smaller than cells spread through his body. They repaired damaged tissue. They fought infection. They stabilized his vital signs. Within minutes, his color started to improve. Kate said he would need more treatment, but he was stable now. She asked who was next. They worked for hours. Kate lost count of how many patients they treated. The human medical team moved with practiced skill. Their training and technology made quick work of injuries that would have been fatal under normal Thalari care. Dr. Mira was amazed by the nanomed kits. The portable surgical units could do complex operations that normally needed a full hospital. During a short break, Dr. Mira approached Kate. She had a question. She wanted to know how humans did this. Human medicine was so aggressive and invasive, it should cause more damage than it repaired. Kate smiled tiredly. She explained that human bodies were tough. They evolved on a planet that constantly tried to kill them. High gravity, extreme weather, predators everywhere. Human immune systems were incredibly strong. They healed fast. They could tolerate more pain than most species. So human medicine evolved to match. It was not elegant, but it worked. Mira pointed at the equipment. She asked how Kate knew these techniques would work on Thalari. They were designed for human bodies. Kate said it was because humans studied. When humanity joined the Galactic Council, they made it a priority to learn about every species. They created medical protocols for each one. It was part of their training. If they were going to answer distress calls, they needed to be ready to help anyone. Mira was quiet for a moment. She admitted that before today she was afraid of humans. The stories everyone heard about their capacity for violence were scary. Kate asked what Mira thought now. Mira said she understood now. The human capacity for violence and their capacity for compassion came from the same source. They evolved to survive but also to protect. They were warriors because they had to be. But they were healers because they chose to be. Kate felt warmth in her chest. She said that was probably the nicest thing anyone had said about humanity since they joined the council. A call came through her communicator. It was Mendez. He said she needed to see something. Kate went to Deck 6 where Mendez and his team were working on the hull breaches. What she found made her blood run cold. Mendez pointed at Krylon boarding equipment still attached to the hull. He said the Krylon were preparing to board the ship. Another 10 minutes and they would have been inside. Kate examined the equipment. She knew what the Krylon did to prisoners. They did not believe in quick deaths. They did not ask for ransom. They kept prisoners for entertainment. She asked when Commander Patterson would arrive. Mendez said he was on the bridge now, meeting with Captain Venela. Kate nodded. She said that was good. When Captain Venela saw this equipment, she would understand just how close they came to something worse than death. She looked out through the damaged hull at the human fleet. The Liberty, Philadelphia, and Yorktown hung in space like guardian angels. Their weapons were still hot from the fight. All across the galaxy, species feared human military power. They feared human aggressive nature. They feared humanity because they came from a death world. But Kate knew the real truth. Yes, humans were dangerous. Yes, they could do terrible violence. But they were also the only species in the galaxy who would travel across light years to answer a distress call from strangers. They would risk their lives without hesitation. They would fight not for conquest or glory. They would fight simply because someone needed help. Kate looked at the names painted on the side of the Liberty. The ship had responded to hundreds of distress calls. It had saved thousands of lives. The crew asked for nothing in return. They did it because it was right. She thought about the young Thalari boy she had treated. He would live now. He would grow up because humans crossed the stars to help him. That was what mattered, not the fear others felt. Not the reputation as warriors. What mattered was that when someone sent a distress call into the darkness, humans answered. The galaxy hoped for mercy when ships like the Celestial Dawn sent their desperate calls. What they got was something better. They got humanity. Deathworlders, yes, but also protectors, healers, and the closest thing to heroes the galaxy had ever seen, and that made all the difference in the universe. 3 days after the rescue, Captain Venla stood alone in the observation lounge of the Liberty. She stared out at the stars. The Celestial Dawn was still being repaired. Her crew was spread between the 3 human ships. She should have been working. She should have been filing reports to the Thalary Federation. She should have been doing her job as captain, but she could not stop thinking about what she had seen. What she had learned. A voice spoke behind her. Someone asked if the view was beautiful. She turned to see Commander Patterson entering the lounge. He carried 2 cups of something that steamed. He explained it was coffee. A human drink. He said it was safe for Thalary. He had checked with Dr. Mira. Venla took the cup carefully. The liquid was very dark, almost black. It smelled bitter. She took a small sip and immediately wished she had not. The taste was harsh and strong. Nothing like the gentle herbal drinks her people preferred. Patterson laughed at her expression. He said most species hated coffee, but humans needed the caffeine to stay awake during long shifts. Venla asked what caffeine was. She set the cup down. Patterson explained it was a drug that kept humans awake and focused. He gestured to the window. He said she seemed troubled. He wanted to check on her. Venla was quiet for a moment. She said she had been thinking about the Krylon boarding equipment that Kate Morrison found. She thought about what would have happened if the humans had not arrived. Patterson's face became dark and serious. He said he was sorry she had to see that. Venla said she needed to see it. It made her realize something. The galaxy was more dangerous than she thought. More dangerous than anyone wanted to admit. She turned to face him directly. She needed to ask him something important. When the humans received their distress call, how far away were they? Patterson hesitated before answering. He said about 4 light years. Venla asked how long it took them to reach the Celestial Dawn. Patterson said 18 minutes. Venla felt her breath catch in her throat. She said that was impossible. Even with faster-than-light drives, crossing 4 light years should take hours. Maybe days if you included navigation calculations and safety checks. Patterson said carefully that human faster-than-light drives were different. When they joined the Council, they shared most of their technology, but their military drives were classified information. He said humans took rapid response very seriously. Venla asked how many ships like the Liberty Earth had. Patterson said that was also classified. But he could tell her this much. The Earth Defense Force kept a fleet specifically designed to respond to distress calls. They patrolled the major shipping lanes. They monitored for emergency beacons. They trained constantly for search and rescue operations. Venla asked why. Why did humans do this? Humanity had only been part of the Council for 15 years. They had no historical ties to most species. Why did they risk their lives to save strangers? Patterson was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. He explained that on Earth they had an old tradition. Maritime law. If a ship at sea sent a distress call, any vessel that could respond had to help. It did not matter who they were. It did not matter if they were friends or enemies. If someone was in trouble at sea, you helped them. It was one of their oldest laws. It was one of the few things all human nations agreed on even during their worst wars. He gestured to the stars outside. He said when humans reached space, they brought that tradition with them. Out here in the void between stars, everyone was sailing the same ocean. If you were in trouble, humans would come, not because they expected payment or thanks. They did it because it was the right thing to do. Venla felt something shift inside her. She said it was more than that, though. The humans arrived prepared for combat. Their ships had more weapons than anything she had ever seen. They did not just come to rescue. They came prepared to fight whoever was attacking. Patterson admitted she was right. He said mercy was not enough. Helping people meant protecting them from those who would hurt them. Humans had learned that the galaxy had plenty of predators. Venla said quietly that species like the Krylon were those predators. Patterson agreed. He said there were others too. Pirates, raiders, slavers. There were species in the galaxy that preyed on the weak. Most Council species had forgotten how to fight back. Vanilla thought about her own people. The Thalari had been at peace for over 1,000 years. They had no real military, only patrol ships designed to stop small threats. The idea of actual war was strange to them, almost disgusting. She said quietly that they had become soft. All of them. They built the Grand Council. They created trade networks and cultural exchanges. They convinced themselves that civilization had won over violence. But they were wrong. They just stopped paying attention to the darkness at the edges of space. Patterson corrected her gently. He said they were not soft. They were civilized. There was a difference. They had built something beautiful, something worth protecting. They had created art and science and philosophy while humanity was still fighting wars over resources. They should be proud of that. Venla said that civilization needed guardians, though. Patterson agreed. He said that was what humanity could offer, not as conquerors or rulers, but as protectors. They would let species like the Thalari continue building, creating, and discovering. Humans would handle the darkness. Venela looked at Commander Patterson. Really looked at him. She saw the tiredness around his eyes, the tension in his shoulders. This human carried heavy responsibility, and he did it willingly. She asked what it cost them. Being the galaxy's guardians, what did it cost humanity? Patterson's expression became sad. He said it cost everything. They lost people. Good people. Every distress call was a risk. Every rescue might be their last. They carried that weight every day. They knew that their choice to help others might mean they would not make it home. He paused and looked at the stars. He said they also knew that if they did not do it, no one else would. So they paid the price, because the alternative was letting people like Venela and her crew die alone in the dark, and that was not a galaxy humans wanted to live in. A chime sounded. Patterson's communicator came to life. The bridge reported that long-range sensors picked up another distress call. A merchant ship was under attack by pirates 2 sectors away. Patterson changed instantly. He went from thoughtful philosopher to military commander in a second. He ordered battle stations. He told them to plot the fastest course. They would launch in 5 minutes. He turned to Venla. He said he was sorry, but he had to go. Venla said of course. She thanked him, not just for saving her crew, but for showing her what humanity really was. Patterson smiled. He said they were just doing their job. After he left, Venla stayed at the window. She watched as the Liberty prepared for another rescue mission. She understood now. Humanity did not just respond to distress calls. They lived for them. It was who they were. Who they had always been. Deathworlders, yes, but also saviors. The galaxy hoped for mercy when ships sent distress calls into the void. What they got was humanity, and somehow that was better than mercy could ever be. 2 weeks after the Celestial Dawn rescue, the Galactic Council chambers were busy. The station orbited Alpha Centauri Prime. Representatives from 47 species filled the huge room. Their translators created a soft background noise as conversations happened between delegates. Ambassador Helen Carter stood at the human position. She reviewed her notes one more time. As Earth's chief representative to the Council, she had been preparing for this moment since news of the rescue spread. She knew what was coming. She knew the other species would have questions and concerns. The Council leader spoke. His name was High Counselor Dravix. He was from the Quelly species and had led the Council for 3 decades. He announced that the Council recognized Ambassador Carter of Earth. Helen stepped forward onto the central platform. Lights focused on her. 47 pairs of alien eyes watched her. These representatives came from civilizations that existed for thousands of years before humans discovered fire. Helen began her speech. She addressed the High Counselor and all the delegates. She said she was here to talk about the concerns raised by the recent military action in the Celestial Dawn incident. Counselor Thrax of the Methodian Republic interrupted her. He had 4 eyes that glowed with anger. He said concerns was too mild a word. The human fleet destroyed 6 Krylon warships without permission from the Council. That was an act of war. Helen expected this. She said with respect that the Krylon started the fight by attacking a civilian research ship. Humans responded to a distress call. That was their right under Council law. Counselor Vera of the Luminary Federation spoke up. She said the level of force used was too much. 6 ships destroyed. Thousands of Krylon dead. Surely there were other options. Diplomatic solutions. Before Helen could answer, a new voice cut through the room. It was Captain Venela. She stood at the witness platform where she had been called to give testimony. She asked Counselor Vera about diplomatic options. With all due respect, the Krylon were preparing to board her ship. Her crew would have been taken prisoner. That included children. She had seen recordings of what the Krylon did to prisoners. Death would have been mercy. The chamber became silent. Venla's words carried weight. The Thalari were known across the galaxy for being peaceful and honest. Venla continued. She said the humans arrived in 18 minutes. 18 minutes to cross 4 light years. They engaged the Krylon immediately. They gave one warning before opening fire. When the threat was gone, they spent 3 days fixing her ship and treating her wounded. They asked for nothing in return. Helen saw her chance. She said Captain Venla's testimony showed the reality they all faced. The Council had built a beautiful civilization, but they did it by avoiding unpleasant truths. The Krylon were not the only threat. Pirates operated freely on the outer edges of space. Slave traders kidnapped people from frontier worlds. And the Council did nothing because they had forgotten how to fight. Counselor Thrax protested. He said they had patrol ships. They had security forces. Helen countered quickly. She said those ships arrived hours or days after an attack, if they arrived at all. She had reviewed the statistics. In the past 5 years, over 200 distress calls went unanswered. 200 ships, colonies, and stations called for help and got nothing. How many could have been saved with rapid response? The silence in the chamber was damning. Every delegate knew she was right. High Counselor Dravix asked what she proposed. Did she want them to militarize the Council? Build fleets of warships? Helen said no firmly. The Council should stay what it was, a symbol of civilization, diplomacy, and progress. But let humanity do what they did best. Give them authority to respond to distress calls throughout Council space. Let them be the rapid response force, the protectors of those who could not protect themselves. Counselor Vera asked if Helen wanted them to make humanity the Council's military. To give humans permission to use military force across all their territories, Helen clarified. She said with oversight, humans would report every action to the Council. They would follow rules of engagement. They would use force only as a last option. But when someone sent a distress call, they needed to respond immediately. They could not wait for permission from committees. A new delegate stood up. Ambassador Krell of the Vexian Dominion. The Vexians were one of the few species that matched humanity in military capability. He said in his gravelly voice that he supported this proposal. The Vexians understood strength. They recognized that the Council needed protectors. Humanity had proven themselves capable. Venela added that the Thalari supported it too. Before the Celestial Dawn incident, she feared humanity. She saw only their capacity for violence. But she learned that their violence served a purpose. They fought not for conquest but for protection. They were warriors in service to peace. High Counselor Dravix raised his hand for silence. He said this was a big decision, one that would change the Council's relationship with security and military force. They would debate this matter and vote within the week. He turned to Helen. He had to ask something. What did humanity gain from this arrangement? They would be risking their lives, their ships, their people to protect species that were not their own. Why would they accept such a burden? Helen met his eyes steadily. She said because it was the right thing to do. Because every person who died while sending a distress call was a tragedy that could have been prevented. Because humanity believed that civilization meant something. Part of that meaning was standing up for those who could not stand up for themselves. She paused to let her words sink in. She said humans were not asking to be rulers or masters. They were offering to be shields. Let them stand between the darkness and the light. Let them be the ones who answered when someone called for help. Dravix nodded slowly. He said the Council would consider the proposal. Later, as the session ended and delegates left, Counselor Vera approached Helen. She said that was a good speech. But she had to ask if humans were truly prepared for what they offered. To be the Council's protectors meant they would face every threat first. They would be the first to die when danger came. Helen smiled sadly. She said humanity had been preparing for this role since they first looked up at the stars. They had always been the ones who ran toward danger instead of away from it. They had always been the ones who heard someone crying for help and thought they had to do something. That was who they were. It was not a burden to them. It was their purpose. Vera studied her for a long moment. She said humans were remarkable. Terrifying, yes, but also remarkable. She hoped the council had the wisdom to accept the offer. As Helen left the chamber, she got a message from Commander Patterson. The Liberty had just completed its third rescue mission in 2 weeks. They saved a colony ship from engine failure. No combat this time, just careful engineering and hard work. She smiled. Whether the council voted yes or no, humanity would keep responding to distress calls. They would keep being the ones who showed up when others called for help. Because that was what Deathworlders did. They turned their capacity for violence into a shield for those who needed protecting. And in doing so, they became something the galaxy had never seen before. Heroes who chose their role not because they wanted glory, but because someone had to stand in the darkness so others could live in the light. 5 years had passed. The galaxy had changed. Admiral Jake Patterson sat in his office on Luna Base. He used to be commander of the Liberty. Now he oversaw the entire human defense fleet. The promotion brought responsibilities he never imagined, but it also brought satisfaction that made every sleepless night worth it. On his desk were the latest reports. Distress call response times were down to an average of 12 minutes. Piracy incidents dropped by 73%. There had been 0 successful slave raids in council space for the past 18 months. The numbers told a story of success, but Jake knew the real cost. The wall behind his desk had names carved in marble. 347 of them. These were human crew members who died responding to distress calls since that day, when the Celestial Dawn sent its desperate message. Each name was someone who ran toward danger when everyone else ran away. A sound at his door stopped his thinking. He called for them to come in. Captain Kate Morrison entered. She now commanded her own ship called the Athens. She saluted formally. She asked what the Admiral needed. Jake told her to relax. He had a mission for her. But first he wanted to show her something. He pulled up a holographic display. Images appeared in the air between them. Ships, stations, and colonies, all flying flags from different council species. These were facilities built in the past 5 years. Medical stations, rescue outposts, rapid response bases. 37 of them scattered through council space. Kate studied the display. She knew they had been expanding, but not this much. Jake smiled. He told her to look closer at the crews. It was not just humans anymore. Kate leaned forward. The crew lists showed many species mixed together. Humans, yes, but also Thalari, Vexians, Luminari, and dozens of others. They were integrated crews. Jake explained that humans had been training them, teaching council species their rapid response methods, their combat techniques, their medical procedures. It started with volunteers who wanted to help after seeing what humans did for their own people. Now there were entire departments at the Council Academy dedicated to emergency response. He showed another image. This was the Defender Academy on Thalari Prime. Captain Venla was the leader there. She trained the next generation of rescue ship commanders using everything she learned from humans. Kate felt warmth in her chest. She said they were not alone anymore. Jake agreed. Humanity showed the Council what was possible. The Council decided they wanted to be part of it. Humans were still the main rapid response force. They probably always would be the ones who took the most dangerous jobs. But they were building something bigger now. A culture of protection that covered the entire galaxy. Jake closed the display. He told Kate about her mission. They received intelligence about a slave operation in the Outer Rim. It was large-scale, possibly hundreds of prisoners. The Council authorized a joint operation. 3 human ships and 2 Vexian cruisers with support from Thalari medical vessels. Kate straightened up. She asked when they would leave. Jake said 48 hours. She would command the task force. He paused. He told her this would be dangerous. Slavers fought dirty. They would not hesitate to kill prisoners if they thought they were losing. Kate said she understood. They would get the prisoners out safely. Jake nodded. He knew she would succeed. He dismissed her. After Kate left, Jake returned to looking at the memorial wall. 347 names. 347 heroes who gave everything to protect strangers. But because of their sacrifice, thousands more were alive. Ships that would have been lost were saved. Colonies that would have been raided continued to grow. Children grew up with parents who would have died without human help. His communicator made a sound. It was Ambassador Helen Carter. She now served as the Council's Secretary of Defense. That position was created specifically to coordinate the protection forces. Helen said she thought Jake would want to know. The council just passed the protection accord. It made everything they built over the past 5 years official. It established protection as a basic right for all council citizens. Jake felt emotion rise in his throat. He said that was really good news, Helen continued. There was more. They wanted to build a memorial on Council Central Station for all the responders who died protecting others. Not just humans, but everyone who was lost while answering distress calls. Jake said softly that was appropriate. They deserved to be remembered. Later that evening, Jake stood at the observation deck of Luna Base. He looked out at Earth, his homeworld. The death world that forged humanity in fire and violence. That taught his species to be warriors. But Earth also taught them compassion. It taught them that strength meant protecting the weak. That courage meant facing danger so others did not have to. That the highest calling was not conquest but service. His communicator made another sound. Another distress call. A cargo ship was under attack by pirates in the Kepler sector. The nearest human ship, the Boston, was already moving. Estimated arrival was 14 minutes, Jake smiled. 14 minutes. The galaxy learned to count on that number. When danger came, when death seemed certain, when all hope seemed lost, help arrived in minutes, not hours. The Deathworlders would come. They would fight. They would win, because that was what humanity did. That was what they always did. When someone sent a distress call hoping for mercy, they got something better. They got humans. All across the galaxy, on 1,000 ships and stations, the message was the same. If you need help, call for it. Someone will hear. Someone will come. The Deathworlders are watching. They will never let you face the darkness alone. The Celestial Dawn sent its distress call 5 years ago. They hoped for mercy. They prayed for salvation. What arrived changed everything, not just for that single ship, but for the entire galaxy. Humanity proved that Deathworlders could be more than conquerors. They could be protectors. They could be heroes. They could be the light that shines in the darkness. The hope that arrives when all seems lost. And in doing so, they gave the galaxy something it had been missing for 1,000 years. The knowledge that no one would ever have to face danger alone again. The Deathworlders had arrived. And they were here to stay. The Athens dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Outer Rim system. Captain Kate Morrison stood on her bridge studying the sensor readings. Behind her were 2 more human ships, the Denver and the Columbia. To her left, 2 Vexian cruisers held formation. The Joint Task Force was ready. Lieutenant Danny Fletcher called out from his station. He was her tactical officer. He reported that sensors detected the slaver base on the 3rd moon. It was heavily fortified. At least 12 defense platforms and multiple patrol ships. Kate studied the tactical display. The intelligence had been accurate. This was a major operation. The slavers had been operating for years hidden in this remote system. They took prisoners from frontier colonies and sold them to the highest bidder. Her communications officer spoke up. His name was Officer Ryan Cooper. He said the Vexian commander was requesting a conference. Kate told him to put it through. The Vexian commander appeared on screen. Commander Zax was a veteran warrior. His species were natural fighters, though they fought with honor unlike many others. Zax spoke in his deep voice. He asked for Kate's assessment of the situation. Kate outlined her plan. The defense platforms were the main threat. They had to take those out first, but they had to be careful. The slavers would kill the prisoners if they thought they were losing. Speed and precision were critical. Zax agreed. He said his ships would handle the defense platforms. Human ships should focus on the base itself and prisoner extraction. Kate nodded. She gave the order. All ships moved forward. The battle began the moment they entered weapons range. The defense platforms opened fire immediately. Plasma bolts and missiles filled space. The Vexian cruisers returned fire with devastating accuracy. Their heavy cannons tore through the platforms one by one. The Athens and the other human ships pushed forward. Patrol ships tried to intercept them, but human point defense systems were superior. Every missile was shot down. Every shot was dodged or deflected. Kate watched the tactical display carefully. She saw the pattern. The slavers were trying to buy time, probably to move or hide the prisoners. She could not let that happen. She gave new orders. Launch all boarding shuttles. Full Marine deployment. They were going in now. Sergeant Lisa Grant led the Marine assault team. She was one of the best. Her team of 40 Marines launched from the Athens in 4 shuttles. They flew through the chaos of the battle, dodging fire and debris. The shuttles hit the base hard. They used breaching charges to blow through the outer hull. Marines poured in, weapons ready. The slavers tried to resist, but they were not prepared for human soldiers. Grant moved through the corridors with practiced efficiency. Her helmet display showed the base layout. Intelligence said the prisoners were held in the lower levels. She led her team deeper into the facility. They encountered heavy resistance at the main junction. Slavers had set up a defensive position with heavy weapons. Grant signaled her team. They used flashbangs and smoke grenades. In the confusion, they pushed forward. The fight was brief and brutal. The slavers were outmatched. Finally, they reached the holding cells. Grant's heart sank at what she saw. Hundreds of prisoners crammed into tiny spaces. Multiple species, all showing signs of abuse and starvation. Some were children. She called back to the Athens. They needed medical teams immediately, and they needed transport for hundreds of refugees. Back on the Athens, Kate coordinated the evacuation. The Thalari medical ships that had been waiting at a safe distance moved in. Dr. Mira was leading the medical response. She had volunteered for this mission specifically. The rescue took hours. Every prisoner had to be carefully moved. Many were too weak to walk. The medical teams worked tirelessly. Human nanomedicine helped stabilize the worst cases. Thalari doctors provided gentle care and comfort. Kate watched from her bridge as shuttle after shuttle carried freed prisoners to safety. This was what it was all about. Not the glory of battle, not the victory over enemies, but this moment. These lives saved. Commander Zax called from his ship. The last defense platform was destroyed. All slaver patrol ships were disabled or destroyed. The base was secure, Kate thanked him. She said the Vexians fought with honor and skill. Zax replied that it was good to fight alongside humans. He understood now why the galaxy trusted them. 3 days later, Kate stood in the medical bay of a Thalari hospital ship. Dr. Mira was checking on a young girl from one of the frontier colonies. The girl had been missing for 2 months. Her family thought she was dead. Mira said the girl would make a full recovery. Physically, at least. The emotional scars would take longer to heal. But she was alive. She would see her family again. Kate felt the familiar weight of command. They had saved 237 prisoners from that base. But how many more were still out there? How many more distress calls would go unanswered? Mira seemed to read her thoughts. She said Kate could not save everyone. No one could. But she had saved these people. That had to be enough, Kate nodded. Mira was right. Every life saved mattered. Every person who went home to their family mattered. That was why humans did this. That was why they kept answering the calls. Later, as the Athens prepared to return to Council space, Kate received a message from Admiral Patterson. He congratulated her on the successful mission. He said the Council was already planning more joint operations. The Vexians wanted to establish their own rapid response teams modeled after the human fleet. The message ended with a reminder. There were 3 new distress calls waiting. Ships needed help. Colonies needed protection. The work never stopped. Kate smiled. She would not have it any other way. This was what she signed up for. This was what it meant to be human in a galaxy that needed protectors. She gave the order. Set course for the next distress call. Maximum speed. The Athens jumped to faster than light travel. Behind them, freed prisoners were heading home. Families would be reunited. Lives would be rebuilt. All because someone answered their call for help. Across the galaxy, the message continued to spread. If you were in danger, call for help. The Deathworlders would come, not for glory or reward, but because it was right, because every life mattered, because no one should face the darkness alone. Humanity had changed the galaxy, not through conquest or force, but through choice. The choice to protect, the choice to serve, the choice to be heroes when heroes were needed most. The Celestial Dawn had sent its distress call years ago, hoping for mercy. What arrived was better than mercy. What arrived was hope. What arrived was humanity. And that hope spread across the stars, a promise that help would always come. That protection was not just a dream but a reality. That the Deathworlders who came from the nightmare planet called Earth would stand between civilization and chaos. The galaxy learned a simple truth. When you hoped for mercy and sent your distress call into the void, you did not get mercy. You got something far more valuable. You got humans. The Deathworlders who chose to be saviors. The warriors who fought for peace. The species that turned their capacity for violence into the greatest force for good the galaxy had ever known. And they would always answer the call.